Whetstone, keeping it sharp.
Nothing like a hot cigar on a hot day.
We're
All
two
right.
hot dudes.
Hot and
I'm hot.
sweaty.
Are you hot?
Yeah, I feel dripping down my back.
Yep.
So, welcome to another episode, Whetstone podcast. So, once again, I'm Rick.
And I'm Mike still.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about what is an ODA.
Oda?
ODA.
Uda.
Yoda?
Yoda.
Oh,
He
ODA.
probably would have
ODA.
been on ODA though
Yeah.
if he was around.
So we may do future episodes on other teams within special operations. Right now, we're going to cover the SF team, so an ODA, an SF, Special Forces Operational Detachment-Alpha, what that is. So, yeah.
That's the lowest level U.S. Army Special Operations team,
Yeah.
ODA. And you have the Bravo and the Charlie aspect of it, company, battalion level that. But we're talking about the rubber where it meets the road all across the world.
You mean there's a B team and a C team? So anyway, the SFODA has a pretty long and distinct, well, not long, but a distinct lineage. We trace our lineage back to World War II.
Yep.
So I remember when it all started. You can tell by the gray in my beard that I was actually there.
I was a corporal back then.
I hadn't gone to selection yet, but I could have gone SF.
It could have. Just like everybody else, man. Yep, it started out in small light unit, evolved from the Coordinator of Information, the COI, which was established 11 July 1941 by William Donovan. The COI was the nation's first national intelligence agency.
So they're also the predecessor to the CIA, if I remember right.
They are.
And so we share that lineage. We were the more militant version of the LPGA. I mean, the
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Oh, well, I don't need that.
And after the COI, they changed it over to OSS, Office of Strategic Services, and that was established in that was established in June of 42.
So
I think the funny part about this was the COI was invented in July of 41. But when did we enter the war? Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Months and months later, William Donovan had the forethought to say, this world war is a world war. It's going to affect us sooner or later. We just don't know when. Let's grease some skids and let's be ready for it. And then unfortunately, we entered it the hard way. So.
well, that's why he's the grandfather of us all. So during World War II, they set up some teams. What were they called?
The OSS had OG, and just because it's
Original
gangsta, because that's how that fucking shit rolled. But the operational groups is what they call them, and those teams were broken up. And typically, it was officer for command and control. They had a commo guy, and they had a demo guy. They didn't always have a medical personnel.
Yeah.
That was later on when it came. But those three guys they found could go link up the partisan force, facilitate, train, equip, and do maximum damage. Obviously, the radio guy was more command and control back and forth. The commander was in charge of everything, and the demo guy was just in charge of I'm just here to just bang stuff out and blow stuff up.
Well, I imagine the officer was, participate with the partisans in planning, picking targets, developing. And I think that's, we kind of split those duties now. We have an officer that helps with the planning and the target selection and all that, but we also have our own intel. And we'll kind of get into the structure.
Yep.
But so these OGs, they did include what we know as JED teams, right?
Yep.
So that was primarily in Europe. But
Yep, that was June 6th, 44 when they jumped in ahead of time, and most of the JED teams were actually part of the SOE, the British Special Operations guys, and they found that they had more of a need than resources to either equip them, refit them, and to fill them, and that's when we came in to help them and go in there and do that.
Okay. Yeah, so, through World War II, these teams deployed. They linked up with partisans. They helped either link up and help equip and better guide the resistance in occupied Europe.
Yeah.
And then, from their lessons learned is where they came up with the idea for the ODAs.
Right. I just want to backtrack a little bit. When you said the commander's job was help to pick targets and stuff, because I can understand that if we were partisan forces, we would want to hit the guys that are hurting us physically the most. But that might not be the best use of our resources.
The strategic.
Using the strategic and like taking their resources away so they couldn't hit us might be more beneficial than taking out that small element. So they took emotion out of the fight for them and said these are more of a strategic target, and they had that. When you're right there in the fact that they're in your backyard, it's probably harder to see that. And I totally understand that. I'm definitely not knocking for that. But
that guy ordered my family member killed.
Yep,
I want to kill him.
That's all I wanted, to kill him. Yeah.
Or we don't kill him right now.
Right.
And we hit this other base that supplies these guys. And then when they're weaker, short on supplies, maybe we hit them later.
Or we give them some bad ammo
Yeah.
and let them keep playing with bad ammo, and that happens. That never would happen.
No. Anyway.
Yep. But the first special service force is what I sometimes see as the nearer unit that we kind of melt from. Great movie, Devil's Brigade. If you haven't seen it, you're probably a communist. I would say maybe watch it.
Yeah.
But the movie is a great movie. It does. It's not factually accurate because it's a movie.
It's a movie.
But the La Defensa, Monte La Defensa was the big battle they did. They made it seem like it was the very first one they did. It was not the very first one, but it was definitely the highest priority one that they did. They had already been combat proven before that, and they did that in December 1943. And then, of course, they did a couple other things. Operation Cottage in August of 43. They did the first Special Service Force did so much great stuff. We haven't really talked about the makeup of them, though.
No. So, how were they made up?
So, America and Canada got together and said, hey, we need to make this Special Service Force. And they took 40%, the best of the best of
the best
of the Canadian Army, and brought them down. And then they took the force was made up of 60% Americans, 40% Canadians. But the movie was factual in the fact that they took anybody who didn't really fit in to regular Army units, and they threw them in this unit because they kind of expected it to fail. And it was a half-assed attempt at somebody say, we're going to support it, but not really.
They're going to send the criminals.
Yes, which...
guys that were in lockup, guys that were,
AWOL,
troublemakers.
Yes,
yeah. There was another movie like that where they took guys out of a prison.
Yep.
Made a strike force.
Of 12 guys, too, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, about.
Yeah. Like the Dirty Dozen. Which I think is so ironic that they take criminals for the first Special Service Force, the Devil's Brigade, and they take criminals for 12 criminals for the Dirty Dozen, because any good SF guy knows that
we're a good part criminal.
If you're not a criminal in here, you're probably not going to be in regiment very long. But yes.
Criminals and pirates.
Yes. Land pirates, yes. But, so, on and on. So, yes. Later on, after they disbanded the first Special Service Force at the end of the war, in 45, the first Special Forces unit was a 10th group.
Yeah.
And that was in 52. Just prior to Korea. They did a lot of great things. Korea was really the first conflict that they used actual Special Forces units in more of the makeup that we're made up today.
Yeah.
Type stuff, yeah. So.
All this information, where's a good place to find this?
MySpace. Look at MySpace, and it'll link all the way to it.
It's in our fans only.
Got to pay extra for pants on.
So, but I mean, there's a RSOF history website.
Absolutely. There's an RSOF historian page. Tons of great information. It actually has different tabs. You can look at, history of civil affairs, history of PSYOPs, and break it, history of the Rangers, everything in RSOF, and you can just highlight that, or you can look at the whole lineage together. It's rsof/history.org. Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So, once the first SF group was formed, 10th group.
Yep.
So, since then...
Let me back up real quick. I had always heard a rumor that the reason why 10th group has the green flash was because it was literally guys figuring this out around a pool table at like the NCO club.
Yeah.
And they literally cut the felt
Yeah.
off of the pool table to make the first flash.
I'd heard
to
that
be different.
also.
Yeah.
I heard also it was all green for max per diem.
I think those are both good answers. I think those are both good answers.
So, but Special Forces, since its inception, has been involved in every conflict that our nation's had, and some non-conflicts, a lot of non-conflicts.
Yep.
So, very active lifestyle, so to speak.
Yep. Busy.
So, from World War II, the predecessors, to Korea, like you said, different eras, Vietnam, post-Vietnam, Cold War, GWAT, to present day, man.
And I really like the RSOF website because, it has World War II, then it has Korea, and then it has post-Korean War, which is pretty much to the day, every day between Korea and Vietnam. Then it has Vietnam, and then after Vietnam, it has post-Vietnam. So literally, pretty much continually since 1952.
But SF guys were in Vietnam during or right after the Korean War.
Yes.
As advisors to the French.
Yep.
And so we actually were there longer than when we took over that conflict.
And it actually has us labeled as being in Vietnam in the mid to late 50s.
Yeah.
And I used to think that, early 60s, maybe just a couple years prior to the main war. No, they were there a decade prior.
Yeah, because Korea ended in 53. So right after that, they started sending guys over to Vietnam with, to advise the
Next
French
hotspot.
and the Vietnamese. Yeah. So before we look at the makeup of a team, we should probably talk about its missions.
Right.
So the core
Both of
mission
them.
sets. Yeah.
Both the missions.
Yeah, both of them. Hit with pipe and set on fire.
And repeat.
But according to FM 3-05,
Army Special Operations.
yeah, there are 9 SF missions. There are other publications still have the 6 that when we went through that we were taught.
Which is funny because the Go Army website was updated 10 September 21, and it still has 6 missions. Good job, Army, for being a couple days behind the power curve.
So an SF ODA, their missions. Let's kind of run through those. The big one, the one that we're known for, is unconventional warfare. We're the only unit that's specifically designed and chartered to do unconventional warfare. There's a lot of other folks that throw that up there, but
I really was a big fan of Admiral McRaven when he was the SOCOM commander. And I remember when he was in charge a few days ago, he actually put out Army Special Forces are the only people that do unconventional warfare on the planet. Everybody else is good at something, but these guys did. And the definition for unconventional warfare: activities conducted to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power by operating through or with an underground, auxiliary, and guerrilla force in a denied area.
Yeah. So that's Robin Sage.
Yep.
That's why we have Robin Sage. That exercise is to test young SF guys going at the end of the course, culminating exercise 4, unconventional warfare.
Yep.
Many of our other mission sets support that. They're like training for them. So when you look at the next one on the list, FID, Foreign Internal Defense, I look at that as we're training a partner force. I mean, we can go over the definition, participation by civilian and military or military agencies of a foreign, of a government in any of the action programs taken by another government or other designated organizations to free and protect its society from subversion, lawlessness, insurgency, terrorism, and other threats to its security. So that's by the book, and it kind of rambles on, and I don't read too good.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny though. When I was typing this up, everything was in alphabetical order. Because of my OCD, it has to be. My CDO was so bad, I typed it up. I was like, I can't have U first and then F second. So I put it in alphabetical order, and I was like, it just doesn't really work that way for us. Because I think FID in my book, in my opinion, is overarching for a lot of other things. I'm going to call them subtasks. They're not subtasks. They're still core missions. But
I would say that, so FID is our most done mission.
yes.
So it
agreed.
is the one that we probably do the most.
Agreed.
So we will go on JSETs, Joint Combined Exercise for Training, and our guys will train foreign nations, military, police, whatever other agencies, and they will train them in different defined tasks.
Yep.
Tasks or groups of tasks. You'll get an assignment and you'll go execute that. It's one of the things I really liked about SF, because no two trips were the same. Even if you went and did a light infantry JSET 2 times in a row, you're probably going to do different places. Yep. You're going to have a different caliber of soldier you're training, different weapon sets, different tactics, different environmental and cultural things to
which
think
definitely kept it from getting boring.
Yeah.
Not that it would be boring, but it
Yeah.
kept it far from being boring, because it was, like you said, completely opposite.
So when I say that FID supports UW, you're going to go train basically civilians. Here you're training some military people, but some of the folks who I've trained conscripts.
Yeah, exactly.
They couldn't read, they couldn't write. Poor health care, very low motivation, low education. Good folks,
Oh yeah,
smart for the most part,
and cared about their country.
yeah.
You know,
But motivating them to learn and teaching's the big key here.
right.
When it's UW, you're teaching a guerrilla force, partisans, whatever. You're teaching them and taking them out and making them operational and doing things. You're doing the same with the partner nation force,
Right.
with their military. So this is kind of like a dress rehearsal and you're building those relationships.
Right.
Should their government go bad, maybe we're in there linking up with some of the same guys we train with, and they become that guerrilla force.
Right. I brought this up the other day. I was talking to somebody. I mean, in late '89 or late '80s, when we went after Noriega. Just a few years prior, he was an ally. I
Yeah.
mean, that happened a lot in our life.
Yeah.
You're an ally till you do something crazy off the rails.
Yeah.
Now you're an enemy. You know, Gaddafi. A lot of these other
Yeah.
people started out good, or started out allies, and then went, yeah.
So the next mission set is something that's very similar to FID, SFA, Security Force Assistance, and the SFABs are starting to do that also. And a lot of people want to crack jokes on the SFAB. I don't. I think that there's enough room for all of us to play. They do they take the missions that we should not.
Right.
We're not going to take an ODA and go train up a unit of armor or artillery or helicopter pilots.
Right.
SFAB has the ability to put together a team to do that.
Yeah, or work on a specific unit's maintenance package so they can sustain their armor, their helicopters, and stuff like that. And we may have a guy who knows how to twist a wrench nice, but we're not training maintenance guys. No, so I agree. I think they have a different role. Yes.
Security Force Assistance is defined as DoD activities that continue to unify action by the U.S. government to support the development of the capacity and capability of foreign security forces and their supporting institutions.
Right.
So FID, we're training them to suppress insurgency and lawlessness and
battle terrorism. Yep.
and to build that relationship with their different organizations, military, police. SFA, they have a specific, you're going to go down there and teach these guys how to employ this new sight system for this rocket artillery piece or whatever.
Yeah.
So they can project their military might.
Protecting whatever they're protecting.
Yeah.
Next one on the list is COIN, counterinsurgency. Definition is comprehensive civilian and military efforts taken to defeat an insurgency and to address any core grievances. And this is kind of earlier when I said FID's like a mini umbrella for tasks, because in FID it talks about, subversion from lawlessness, insurgency, COIN, and terrorism. And later we'll talk about counterterrorism. So a lot of these, in my opinion, kind of feed through FID, but not directly, but more parallel along FID. Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, coin. Coin is something that we still have a hard time comprehending and performing. It's almost impossible.
It is a very complex task. Yes.
So when you look at like Afghanistan, Iraq, trying to defeat an insurgency, we did that. We did very, very early on.
Yeah. And
then,
Syria. Yeah.
Yeah, and Syria, and then allowed them to kind of resurge.
Yeah.
And didn't leave, So there's a lot of, when you look at coin,
There's a lot of variables.
yeah, it's a very complex thing, and it's one of those things that they task
Yeah.
us or
We
guys
have
to do.
bosses, and sometimes our bosses are influenced by American politics, and sometimes they're influenced by our foreign, our FID counterparts' politics. But a
Yeah.
lot of times, politics will shape how that happens, and sometimes no worries. We're not going to talk politics.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
Yeah, different podcast. That's two grumpy guys with a cigar, not related to Whetstone.
And
So
probably
we'll still be us, but two different.
lots of alcohol. Yeah, and it won't end well. I
No,
guarantee.
for nobody or politics.
So the next mission set is everybody's favorite, DA, direct action.
Yep,
That is pipe hitting.
yep.
So direct
Flyers
action.
and blow torches.
Yeah. Yeah. So short duration strikes and other small scale offensive actions conducted as a special operations excuse me, in hostile, denied, or diplomatically sensitive environments, and which employs specialized military capabilities to seize, destroy, capture, exploit, recover, or damage designated targets.
Yes, and there's a lot of overlap with don't roll with Army, SF, and Special Operations. There's other RSOF units that do certain of these tasks, like Ranger Regiment.
Oh, fantastic.
They're not a scalpel. They're this hybrid between a hammer and a scalpel, because they can be surgical or they can just smash everything. They have a lot of capabilities. But yeah, DA, one of their bread and butter.
When you look at direct action, I think the old 7-8.
7-8, yep.
Yeah, your infantry tax, your ranger mission sets.
Yep.
The difference here for an SF team is that we will almost never be called to do DA by ourselves, unilaterally.
Right.
We're going to do DA with a partner force. So we learn DA in order to teach it and to integrate with a partner force to take them out either with them or they can go unilaterally.
We can facilitate them on a combat operation, or we can train them so they can do a combat operation on their own. Obviously, we're always trying to work ourselves out of a job, so to speak.
Yes.
We want to train them up so much they don't need us, so we can go train somebody else, and these guys can fire and forget. Absolutely. Not that DA is not fun.
No, it is.
It's great fun.
It's a blast. It's what everybody wants to do, and we spend probably at least 80% of our time training for that.
Yes.
So
If you find yourself in that position, you need to be able to do it well.
yeah.
Next one on the list is SR, Special Reconnaissance.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Yep.
But it is.
It is what
one
it
of
is. Its definition is reconnaissance and surveillance actions conducted as a special operation in hostile, denied, or politically sensitive environments to collect or verify information of strategic or operational significance, employing military capabilities not normally found in conventional forces.
I see a theme here.
Yes.
So SR is usually done before DA.
Yes.
So it's going to feed DA. It's going to feed your target packages. You're going to go gather that intelligence, that information.
And that could be done, a single team can have split team, have SR out and then DA it, or they can have a sister team, SR out and DA it, or another multitudinal of services or RSOF or whatever unit's doing.
And when you look at the old CIF, CRIF model, they were set up like that. They had their Halo Recce teams, and then they had their direct action teams. And for us as a ODA, or as a regular ODA, not a super specialized, we kind of did a little bit of all of this. So special reconnaissance, that is just gathering intel, optics, mics, you name it, man. Tracking devices.
I was never on a free fall team. I know you were on a free fall team for a while. To me, that is the main reason why we have free fall teams. We need special reconnaissance. We need eyes way over there.
You know who was another I know it's a controversial topic, but
We don't ever talk about controversial topics.
dive teams.
Yes,
Dive
agreed.
teams being SR teams. They're like, no, we're DA teams because everybody wants to be DA. But if you think it's a means of going to work,
It's a different info platform.
it's a different clandestine infill platform, and it's well suited to infilling guys undercover at night by water. They can swim up a river, get in there, set up their SR site.
Yep.
They can hit a target. They can come out. They can set up their MSS. They can do all
Or
that.
just feed the SR to
Yeah.
another unit. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
But they can't. All of us can do DA. We can do SR.
Yeah.
It's just well, we'll get to the company setup in a little bit.
Yep.
Next is counterterrorism. Counterterrorism. Everybody's second favorite.
Yep. So counterterrorism is defined as actions taken directly against terrorist networks and indirectly to influence and render global and regional environments inhospitable to a terrorist network. And we've all done that in multiple places all over the place.
Yeah.
But again, up in FID, where it talks about we're doing insurgency, COIN and CT, to me, really just lead up into that because that's nothing that we should be doing by ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we could do by ourselves, but like you had said previously, and I 100% agree with, our goal is to teach others to do that. Yes.
And our teams I was on, we went on counterterrorist mission, counter drug, but if it wasn't counter drug, a lot of it was counter-terrorist. We would go train up partner nation forces to combat terrorism in that country. That's another one. Even when we're doing FID, it can be FID to train up guys for counterterrorism.
Right. Agreed.
It's kind of rolls up in the FID.
Yeah. And then everybody's next favorite one,
Oh yeah,
CP.
Yeah.
So,
counter-proliferation. Say that with your mouth full.
yeah, blah, blah, blah. Of WMD's weapons of mass destruction.
I knew a girl once that could.
Anti-cherry strips. But CP stands for those actions taken to defeat the threat and or use of weapons of mass destruction against the United States, our forces, allies, and partners. The definition of WMD: chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons capable of a high order of destruction or causing mass casualties, and exclude the means of transporting or propelling the weapon, where such means is a separable and divisible part from the weapon. I had the scariest idea a couple years ago, and I went and studied. I got a graduate certificate in seaburn defense, and I didn't realize how bad that stuff was. I know nobody really enjoys NBC and seaburn stuff. I did not realize how bad that stuff was until I studied it for a year. It's horrible. And the bad thing is, most of the stuff can be made with the smart guy off of Amazon in their basement, and it's there.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff on the internet.
There's household chemicals can be turned into chemical weapons with just a high school education. So counter-proliferation, going out there and if there is a hostile nation that's developing WMDs or a terrorist network, we do FID to train partner force to counter that, or we go in and gather intel and maybe feed the intel to a strike team.
And specifically how to handle that,
Yeah.
because mishandled, it can be just as bad if we mishandle it or our FID partner mishandle it, or the enemy uses it correctly.
Yeah.
Mishandled is still bad, yeah.
So, the last mission set, IO, intraosseous. No.
Yes.
Information
Both.
operations. So we have a whole directorate for that, PSYOPs.
Yep.
MISO. So they specialize in this, but it is part of the SF mission set. So I have flown in the back of a STOL aircraft with a pal full of leaflets.
Yep.
And kicked that out over small towns in South America, advertising or propagandizing or whatever, delivering products that PSYOPs made for us.
Yeah.
But we also, there are places where we set up a radio station. We bought advertisement and had wanted posters and all this stuff. And PSYOPs is integral in working with the host nation through the embassy and all that to do that. But sometimes some of those initiatives are started by ODAs.
Yeah.
On occasion.
Yeah.
And then kicked up and then UBMA's as an organization, I think we're behind our enemies because of our bureaucracy and our information, our use of IO.
I would say we've been behind the power curve on IO all of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just thinking when you were talking about that stuff, you know, the leaf, all the bundles of stuff. I still have some leaflets I got from Somalia in 92, 93. And I'm sure you have some from all of the other times too. But yeah, it's just funny. We use those things all the time. It's the best way to disseminate information, you know?
So the definition of, the new term is preparation of the environment, which I think's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
they didn't ask me, so they didn't get my opinion.
But preparation of the environment is an umbrella term for operations and activities conducted by selectively trained special operations forces to develop an environment for potential future special operations.
Right.
So it's planting the seed.
Yep.
Planting the seed, and so without getting into some of the more classified stuff, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I heard a guy on the internet, so you know it's true.
Yeah.
He said the Special Forces Charter was, and he said, and I quote, to destabilize current governments and or regimes in such a manner that they can be deemed neutralized. I looked for hours and hours and hours. I would love to find out where he found that, because I think that's really cool, and I would put it on a shirt. But, yeah.
All right, we got a visitor. Special guest.
But, you know, I couldn't find anything that actually said the Special Forces Charter. So.
I would add one word to that. Destabilize directed destabilization of.
I agree. Yeah, I think that would be a lot more accurate. Yep.
Yeah, because we don't just destabilize friendly governments.
Yeah, I mean, we don't just sit around the team and go, let's topple Ecuador tomorrow. You know? Okay, no comments. But
well, maybe those discussions were had, but they weren't acted on.
Exactly.
Officially.
Yeah.
So,
with all of these different multitudinal of mission sets, what does that mean for the actual ODA? Do they have to study and know all 9 of these missions all the time to be able to regurgitate? No.
So they receive some training in the Q course for most of these, and what I liked about SF was that variability. So we had our one of the teams I was on. We were told, "Hey, man, you're going to go down Bolivia. You're going to teach peacekeeping operations." We looked at each other.
What's that?
Have you ever done peacekeeping?
No,
I haven't. I don't know.
I've done anti-peacekeeping.
I heard like in Kosovo, some guy, but I'd never know. I can't even spell PKO.
Yeah.
So we had to learn peacekeeping operations. We had to deep dive into it, teach ourselves, and then develop a POI and go down and instruct that. So you don't need to know all these things all the time. When necessary, you need to be able to deep dive, learn the stuff, and then go out and perform.
Right.
So, it's typical in SF. Like the first time I did an Australian rappel was demonstrating how to do an Australian rappel in front of students in Ecuador.
I was going to say, hopefully not Australians, because they apparently know it better than we do.
I mean, is it ideal? No, but you do what you got to do, right? So you train up, and I got a brief block of instruction off on the side. And,
yep.
Okay, I'm going to follow what you said, and
then it worked. You didn't die, so good. Yeah.
So, with all these mission sets, it builds a flexibility. So basically, we're the Army's force for anything they don't have a unit built to do.
A regular force for.
Yeah.
Right.
So anything else falls into one of those categories, and if it doesn't, they'll still assign it to us.
Yeah.
And we have to figure it out.
Yep. I mean, I was in the same boat. I went to Jordan to teach VBSS, Vessel Boarding Procedure. Not something we learned at all, so we had to go to school to learn it, practiced it, and then taught them it, and then practice it with them.
Then act like you're an expert at it.
Then act like you're an expert at it. Absolutely.
So, that flexibility allows us to do just about anything the Army needs. So, yeah, we're basically the Army's contingency force for
Yep.
whatever they need.
But I think that in the variability of
Yeah.
the mission also decides, do we need all 12 guys all the time?
Yeah.
As if you always had 12 guys. But let's say you always had 12 guys, which I know you didn't because I never did.
Yeah.
Do you always need them all the time? No.
No. So the flexibility is built from lessons learned from the OGs.
Yep. Them OGs.
Them OGs. And so what they found is that there were certain things that were missing when they were conducting operations behind enemy lines. The medical aspect. They later on would deploy some doctors, but there aren't that many doctors. So that's why the SF medic was developed. And initially they took Army medics, gave them some additional training, and then sent them to. So SF teams were made of all other MOSs. They weren't their own branch initially.
So we can call ourselves fake doctors.
Yeah.
Because that's accurate.
Yeah. Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
So there's a website.
Yeah.
But when you look at an ODA, you have an officer. You got to have an officer, somebody
You do.
to pin the blame on.
Yep. And to keep the pirates in line. I mean, you have to.
So right now we have 18 alphas because SF's a branch, but it used to be they were whatever branch officer.
Yep.
And it was usually a career ender because SF wasn't its own branch, and they left their branch probably because they were
Not at the
troublesome.
tip of their spear in
Yeah.
their target field. Yep.
And because you don't give up your best guys for side gigs, and then so you've got an officer, an 18 alpha,
Who's in charge of operations?
yeah, and then like we said, 18 alphas, some are higher. They're there for 18, 24 months.
Some are just there for the summer.
Yeah. Some are useful, some are not.
It happens. With all the MOSs, I think that's
Yes.
an accurate statement. Yes. It's just, the spotlight's just more on the 18 alphas, not to ding 18 alphas, but because there's one guy in charge. I mean, he's the guy that's either making or breaking everything, so it's easy for him to look bad or look good. Yes.
So the other officer, the executive officer, used to be a lieutenant.
Right.
Because the team leader is a captain.
Yep.
And they make it a captain. In the Army, a captain's a company commander in charge of a company of
100 plus
soldiers.
bubbas.
Yeah.
Right.
So here, they're in charge of a 12-person team. So with that, the reason they're captains is because they don't want a brand new officer to be going overseas representing the military.
Right.
So some of the missions we do are high vis, ambassadors, senators, Congress people come and see.
With the elevated rate comes elevated experience, which is what they're targeting.
So a little bit of maturity and
We both know that's not always the true statement, but
not always,
supposedly.
but
Supposedly.
that's the idea.
Unlike medics, which are consummate professionals.
with no pants.
Yeah, most of the time.
So the XO used to be a lieutenant, and now is a warrant officer, 180 Alpha. We used to joke around about warrant officers that they were angry enlisted guys that couldn't get promoted that wanted to be in charge, and they would show up, and usually, they were still those guys.
Yep. I think the warrant officer selection process and warrant officer training has came light years,
Yes.
and now we're putting the right guys in the right spots,
Yes.
and we're actually having quality guys.
And what I see is, kind of letting the cat out of the bag here. When you approach the end of your team time, and you're about to get promoted up out of your team time, let's say you make E8, and E8 the clock's ticking, so you're gonna do your team starting time, and you're gonna go away and not be on the team ever again, unless you drop a warrant packet.
Yep.
And get accepted, and then you come back as a warrant. So now you've got these guys with experience on the team. They get trained in mission planning and future planning, and we've got some really good warrants. So they come out of the course, and they kind of balance out the 18 Alpha who just finished the Q course. He's been an officer for a little bit, been in charge, been in command, but he isn't familiar or as familiar as he probably thinks from the Q course
Right.
in the SF mission.
Right.
So that's where the warrant officer is going to balance that, because he's got that experience.
Yeah.
And
I think something we talked about in another one of the talks about the career progression talk, I think that's a huge line for people who are thinking they want to go warrant.
Yeah.
You can leave the enlisted side to maximize yourself a team, which could be or could not be seen selfish trying to maximize that. But I think if you stay on the enlisted side and do your team sergeant, company sergeant major, first sergeant time, you're really focusing on bettering the enlisted guys around you.
Yeah.
Not saying that warrant officers don't do that.
Yeah.
I had a phenomenal warrant officer. He was a detachment commander
Yeah.
for 25 months. He was shit hot awesome. I would go anywhere if he called me right today. But yeah, I think there's that fine line, yes, as well.
so outside the officer realm, the next in the pecking order as far as on paper is the 18 Zulu, the E8 Master Sergeant Team Sergeant. So the rest of the Army, you don't make Zulu until you make E9. So you're still your MOS instead of
Right.
all those MOSs in that career field.
But I think something you said about the 18 Alpha, normally that's a company size element.
Yeah.
You're in charge of 100 bubbas. Same thing with
The E8,
the 8 is usually a
First
first
sergeant,
sergeant who's in charge of 100 bubbas.
Yeah.
And they said these two guys that can normally run 100 bubbas, we're going to give you 10 of the most unruliest guys on the planet.
Yeah.
And that's why they need the higher rank to handle the less number, because it's the unruliness of
and
the guys.
and the complex mission sets and
Or-
the
okay.
sensitivity,
Or that.
and
Yeah,
yes, all the above.
Yeah, because they're all consummate professionals.
So the 18 Zulu, the team sergeant, really runs the team. He should run the day to day. He should mentor the team leader.
Yep.
Because the team leader is his first time on the team.
Right.
The team sergeant has probably spent years, hopefully.
And he's got at least, 42 months to make E8? Something like that.
yeah.
3.5, 4 years team time in order for him to make E8 in 18 series. So he's got at least that much time under his belt on an actual team. Not in SF, but on an actual team.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the next is your intel sergeant, your 18 Fox, who used to be, like the team sergeant, used to be another MOS and went to a school and became your intel guy. He's also the assistant operations sergeant, so he's the assistant team sergeant. So that way, if you run split ops, you can send an officer and one of the two senior NCOs
Right.
with each of the split elements.
Absolutely.
And so that gives that additional flexibility.
And I will say, I was on a team for a while, and we had our Fox left right before we were going on a combat deployment. So we sent a semi-seniorist, juniorist Echo who had the affinity and wanted to do that. So he was not a senior guy,
Yeah.
but he was very, very good at it, and he understood intelligence, and he is fantastic at it. So in a perfect world, yes, he's your 2IC, but maybe not always. But yes,
And then, so the other MOSs, we have the 18
Larry, Mo, Curly, and Shemp.
Yes. So, otherwise known as the Peanut Gallery,
Yes,
the band of merry hooligans that will cause any trouble you allow them to.
without leadership from the top 4 that we already talked about.
So, our 18, what's next on here? 18, we'll just start with the Bravo.
Bravos, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do alphabetical order because that
Yeah.
makes my OCD
Yeah.
feel better.
So your 18 Bravo, your weapons. Heavy, it used to be broken down to heavy and light weapons. Now it's just weapons. So they're your tactics guys. They should be experts in all your infantry tactics, different weapon sets, employment of the various weapons, from mortars, the machine guns,
Heavy weapons
The
to
pistol,
to close rifle, anything that goes boom, they're going to know how to do
grenade
that.
launchers,
Absolutely.
all that. They should be your SMEs. Everybody should be familiar with that stuff, but we'll talk about cross training after. But
And real quick, to back up on the MOSs, in a perfect world, you have a junior and a senior-ish, a 3-level and a 4-level slot, a staff sergeant, and a sergeant first class slot. I've been on teams where some of the MOSs were an E5 and E6, 2 E5s, 2 E6s, or 2 E7s, or every combination of in between. It is what it is, yeah.
But on paper, the structure, it's built as a senior and a junior, and that allows that flexibility. So when you look at flexing teams, you try to have a mixture of junior and senior of the different MOSs in your various elements.
Yep.
So
After Bravos, we have Charlies.
18 Charlies, 18 kabooms.
18 kabooms.
So,
Engineers.
Engineers, they build stuff, they blow stuff up.
Sometimes the same thing they just built.
Yes.
Sometimes on purpose, too.
Now, I've had engineers that I wouldn't trust to build a lemonade stand.
Yep.
But and others that were so at demo, but most of them were pretty sharp, and so they're school trained in construction and demolition.
But just like backing up, looking out to in, just like Uncle Sam, they say you need somebody best at everything that goes bang, all the weapons guys. We'll give you, what is it, 3.5, 4 months to figure out all that stuff out. We need somebody else to be good at construction and destruction. You got 3.5, 4 months to learn how to build everything, electricity, plumbing, everything from the house up, and then destroy it all completely. I mean, Uncle Sam's never going to give you enough time.
And part of learning construction is learning the weak points in the construction. Hey, how are bridges built? Railroads, all that stuff. So when you get into target identification and target analysis, that's a big. You lean heavy on your 18 Charlies.
Because sometimes our mission is small footprint or not so small footprint, and they can figure all that stuff out. They drop a bridge and make it look like it was structural, or somebody drop a bridge. Yeah.
Or drop a bridge where it can be repaired in 3 days, so you don't inconvenience the locals too much, but it makes the authorities look bad.
Yep.
Look like they're not in control.
Yep.
So that type of finesse. So your 18 Charlies, you're going to rely on for that. Your 18
Deltas. Alphabetical, sorry.
Yeah. Or 18 Deltas, your medics.
Yep.
Amazing training. They get about a year of medical training. Some more. It's like me, fail out, recycle. You get extra training, but in my case, that was good.
Everything to up to surgery. Everything from point of injury care to damage resuscitation to general surgery in a year.
And sickle.
Yeah.
Clinical medicine.
Yep.
While we're not great at it, we can do it. And
I'm sitting right here. It's kind of hurtful when you talk about me like that.
That's probably the type of medicine we're going to do the most. We'll practice the trauma stuff.
Right.
But we'll actually do clinical medicine more than anything else.
In our target language sometimes, which brings the culture stuff. Yeah. But
so
and lastly,
the 18
Echo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Echo. So that's our commo guys.
Yep.
So current day commo guys, it's not just working radios.
Right.
Everything from wave propagation to antenna theory. You have
satellites.
Yes, satellites.
Networking.
Computers. All that newfangled stuff that I tend to have a hard time with.
Yes. Maybe because we're set in our ways. We'll just say set in our ways.
So all those different MOSs gives us a flexibility. And it's kind of, it's interesting that if you look at an ODA, they kind of, in my mind, if the zombie apocalypse ever happened, they are a great asset to try to rebuild society. Mm-hmm. So you have your governance, your leadership. You have your intel gathering, which is some of your force protection, and police type function, but force protection. You have your tactical security guys.
Yep.
You
Base
have
defense,
your infrastructure guys.
Construction. Yep.
Yeah. You have your communication. You have your medicine.
Mm-hmm.
What's missing is spiritual, and that locally tends to take care of itself.
Absolutely, yeah.
You should definitely let them take care of their own spiritual.
Yep.
And we're not missionaries.
No.
Sometimes mercenaries, but not missionaries.
Yes, agreed. All the above. You notice though, there's never been a TV show or series or movie that actually had a special forces team in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because it would probably last about 35 minutes, maybe 40 tops if you spread it out with some commercials. They would just solve all the problems, handle all the business, train all the people they found, get rid of. Yeah, it would just be too easy. So look for it on the horizon.
Yeah, they would gather up locals, build a community, kick out the ones that didn't work.
Yep.
They would train up the ones that did, and
kill all the zombies.
Yeah, kill all the zombies and all the opposition. Anybody who wanted to mess with them, take their stuff.
Yep.
And if you're lucky they don't go rogue and start taking everybody else's stuff, but they probably would.
Yeah. Like Woody Harrelson in the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
When he was I think he was the first group battalion commander who lost his son to one of the, I don't know. He was off the chain.
Yeah.
Yes, got it.
So when you look at this, it gives us that, we keep saying, flexibility.
Yep.
And I like the way it's designed, though, because, you have a team sergeant that has grown up, in Special Forces for a long time.
Yep. Regardless of whether he was an 18 X-ray and started his military career there or started somewhere else and just cut his teeth there as well. But yes.
But he's got that experience. He's got the reputation to allow him to get promoted into that position. Hopefully he was somewhat selected. And you've got a brand new team leader. And when they butt heads, you have another guy that's trained as an officer, knows the officer language and mission, and
former enlisted, so he's got to get a piece
former
of...
enlisted, has experience that can be the mediator between the two if need be.
Right.
He's the tiebreaker,
Right.
the warrant officer. That's pretty much an ODA. Now, they are talking about changing the ODA structure.
Okay.
They're talking about 60-man teams. As a matter of fact, I believe in third group, they have a company that's test driving that. And I've only heard a few things. I haven't dug into it. We'll probably do an update to this podcast once that gets implemented and after we dig into that a bit. But they're looking at adding some members, and some of the members may not be 18 series. So they might have a second Zulu. Oh,
I mean, if you're going to have that many guys, that would be hard. Again, we talked about a first sergeant in an infantry unit or any regular army unit in charge of 100 Bubbas, but he also has his different platoon sergeants control. He's not in direct control of all those guys. He's in overall control. Yeah, I couldn't imagine being one guy in charge of 60 guys without your secondaries.
So along with the MOSs, you have additional skill training. So you have specialty teams, they call them. You have door kicking teams. You have ASOTs, which is intel gathering.
Infill platforms, like we talked about, free fall and dive. Yep.
Free fall, dive, mountain teams.
And some of the groups have two different types of water teams. They have above water teams and below water teams. And some groups just have water teams, which encompass above and below water
WIC teams. So we have all these different, subspecialties, all these schools guys go to. You can go to, sniper school as a medic.
Yep. Or
whatever
JTAC school, in case you don't have a JTAC, or as a backup JTAC.
Yeah. I mean, I always preferred having a dedicated JTAC. However,
there may have been a time possibly that you hypothetically heard about.
Yeah.
Where?
Wee hours in the morning, may have been on the roof with a rifle, sitting next to our Fox, and we're observing stuff, and the JTAC's radio went down, and I'd been to the SOTAC course, so I get on my radio and connect with them because I'm on the roof. I got a good clear shot, and I am calling for fire, because I'd been trained, and so that cross training allows that flexibility.
And we talk about a lot in a lot of these different episodes, I'll call them, where the longer you're on a team, the more ancillary jobs you have, which sometimes puts a strain on your actual MOS job because you have all these other jobs that you're doing and upkeep on them and training on them.
Nobody cares about medicine until they need a medic.
Until somebody gets hurt. Until somebody gets an earplug stuck in their ear and they gotta get it surgically removed.
So, we talk about cross-training. Yes, you're going to cross-train. You're going to learn a little bit about each MOS. You're going to learn how to shoot. You're going to learn how to use your radios. You're going to learn your demo, how to build simple charges, door charges, and all that. You're going to learn all this stuff. That's your cross training. You're going to have additional training. The longer you're there, you'll go to schools and have additional training. Being the jump master on the team, being a sniper on the team, having to keep up on those skills, being a level 2, level 3, whatever.
So when you bring up sniper, are you sniper qualified, Rick?
Technically, yes. So, yeah, Mike and I went to sniper school like one class apart.
Yeah.
But we went to the Army sniper school
Yep,
before
yep.
going SF.
Yep.
So
In 90 and 91.
Yeah. Yeah.
A day or two ago.
So so and that brings something else.
Yes.
We all started somewhere else.
Yep. That's where I was going with that.
So we all started this journey as something else.
Mm-hmm.
We bring those life skills, those skill sets.
And that's whether we had regular Army experience, other service experience, or off the street experience. We brought something with us. Agreed.
So I had a medic who had owned his own construction company. Oh my gosh, he knew more about building stuff than our Charlie did.
Yeah.
Which was a great asset. I had one guy, he didn't know how to drive a stick. We're downrange, all they had was stick shift.
Yep.
So guess what? Just like I taught my kids, I'm teaching this guy how to drive a stick.
Still teaching your kids, but gotcha.
And, but yeah, so we've got all these experiences that we bring. Like I was 11 Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I was a mortar guy. So when I showed up to the team, we do heavy weapons training. I knew everything about the 50
You were
cal.
just a Charlie. You were FDC, so
Yeah.
you were not just the mortar flinger. You were, agree, which is different level stuff.
So I did the fire direction control. I held every position in a mortar platoon other than except platoon leader, obviously. But
You scored too high on your exam to be a platoon leader. That's okay.
yeah. So you bring all that experience, whether it's Army experience or life experience, with you to the team, and that leads to that flexibility. I knew one guy that could pick locks like nobody's business. Not saying what his previous career was, but
He was probably really good at it, though.
yeah.
I had a guy on the team who was not a Charlie, who his dad had his own carpentry business. So he could build anything. So we have a non-Charlie building more stuff than the Charlies because the two Charlies we had, nothing against them, their building experience they learned in the 18 Charlie course in months, where this guy learned it for years and years and years. But that's that stuff you bring with you. Again, other services, other places in the Army, or off the street.
Now, when we talk about being new on a team, you want to fit in, you want to earn your way onto the team, you want to be value added. The way you do that is bring those skill sets. So if you don't have them, look at what skill sets your team needs and learn them, develop them, and you'll become value added and you'll fit in better. And over time, you'll find that you're going to pick up so many different skill sets over your career.
Right.
Hopefully by the time you're a team sergeant, you know a little bit about each MOS. I mean, we tell stories all day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I had a Charlie that couldn't speak Spanish very well. So my team sergeant said, "Rick, you speak Spanish very well." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah, that's why I got a 3.3.
Yeah.
They pay me for it, you know? So hey, can you teach the commo classes? Because this guy is new and he's just not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Hey, man, what commo class?
Wave propagation.
Yeah, wave propagation and antenna theory. So I had to learn that and then learn it in Spanish and then teach it in Spanish.
But really, that's special forces. I have to learn a skill so I can do it.
Yeah.
You did everything that we just talked about. It just happened, down to the team level. No, I agree.
And so later on, when I'm a team sergeant, I'm like, hey, okay, this MOS, on this day, you're going to conduct training for the team. Set it up, plan it, run it by me, and then at the end of the day, I want an hour of Team Daddy training, and I will try to teach you something you haven't been taught yet, because I learned from guys who spent years in that MOS, and I might have some new Bravos, Charlies, Echoes, Deltas.
And maybe it's not new information. Maybe it's just information they don't teach anymore.
Yeah.
Like old school sticks and rags versus now not teaching sticks and rags. No, I agree. No, absolutely.
So, and you bring that experience as that senior NCO, and you make your team better, make them more effective.
Yeah.
So, at the end, that's basically what an ODA is. The mission sets. It kind of, I don't know. Do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I agree. I have some similar stories just like you. I mean, whatever we learned, I was just a regular infantryman. I did a lot of time in reconnaissance units, so I was my own RTO, so I really understand wave propagation and commo, because as a infantry scout, if you can't make commo, you're useless. You're just
As
a
a
speed
FTC guy,
Absolutely, yeah.
it was all about the radios. You had to
Absolutely.
get that call for fire from the FO, and then that's how that's your lifeline to get the data
Yep.
to do your job. So yeah, absolutely, man.
But again, we could pontificate
Yeah.
for hours on this stuff, and I'm sure they're tired of hearing about us talk about stuff already.
All right, so I guess we can wrap this one up.
Okay.
So that's basically what an ODA
What
is.
an ODA is.
We'll update this at some point, but yeah, thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys have a good time.
Yeah.
Best wishes.
Yep.
See you next time. Stay sharp.